it's Dina Troyer here, and there, of course, right as I get to the beach, a nice train is coming by. But luckily I got to the right side of the tracks in time. So from here, we're going to be doing a little bit of water quality sampling. This is something Harbor Wild Watch does in partnership with the lovely South Sound Surfrider Foundation, as well as the Science and Math Institute, and the multiple different parks that we go to. I think there's 11 different sites that we sample for fecal coliform on a monthly basis, kind of in the winter time. So for those of you tuning in, I'm gonna flip the camera around and show you. We're out at Titlow Beach Park in Tacoma. There's definitely kind of some formidable clouds along the horizon, and it's raining lightly. Of course, you probably hear the train going by, so I'll try to mitigate for train noise and wind and rain, but hopefully you can hear me okay as we go out to collect the sample, but also kind of get a bonus beach walk. It's about time for the low tide, and this is the less extreme low tide of the day. So here in the Salish Sea, we have 2 high tides and 2 low tides every tidal cycle, and there's an extreme low and an extreme high, and a more moderate low tide, and a more moderate high tide, I guess. So that's a fancy word for that is mixed semi-diurnal tides, where the tide heights, there's 2 different tide heights of different heights. Words are hard. But it lets us kind of come and explore the beach a little bit. So thank you for those of you letting us know where you're tuning in from. It's kind of fun to see. I see my mom is tuned in, so we know Montana is being represented today. Hi, Mom. And some other 5 folks. So welcome. It is starting to rain a little bit more. You can see as these waves are crashing in, I'm noticing this chocolatey milk kind of sediment mixed up here, kind of in this first couple feet of the shoreline where those waves are crashing in. Oh, we've got some Portland, Oregon tuning in. Welcome to Washington, friends. In the distance, I like to point out the Tacoma Narrows Bridge that connects Tacoma over to Gig Harbor. It's one of my favorite parts of my commute when I get to pop over there, especially driving over at sunset. It's so pretty. I'm also noticing some seabirds are out today. We have the double-crested cormorant there on top of the T for Tacoma, looking very, very regal. They're kind of a cool bird because they're a diving bird. And so I don't think it makes sense for them to do it right now, which is why they're all kind of tucked in. But when it's not raining, they'll dry their feathers by extending their wings. And it kind of looks like they're telling their buddies fishing stories, like, I caught a fish this big! But really they're drying their feathers off because they don't have the oils like something like this gull would have. So they're a lot more of a floaty bird, and they're gonna scavenge from maybe those cormorants or other friends finding food. So nice look at that. I also saw a goldeneye that, oh, of course it just dove. When that pops up again, we'll take a look at that because they're a cool seabird. So kind of thinking about what we're doing today is, we'll come out to the beach, rain and shine for you because, Harbor Wild Watch is all about that learn, have fun. But we're doing some community science. So collecting this water sample is one thing that we do. And then one thing we're not doing is the Puget Sound Seabird Survey this year. And that's where we go out to different sites and we look for things like these golden eyes, and we count them. The Harbor Wild Watch site, in collaboration with the Seattle Audubon group, is at the Purdy Sandspit. And I love that place because in the wintertime we see, hundreds, probably thousands of these black surf scoters that like to kind of hang out there. So while the winter time might result in inclement conditions, it is pretty wet right now. It is a great time to go out and look at cool birds that are only here during the winter months, and then they migrate elsewhere in the summertime. So thankful that my camera can kind of zoom in on this little goldeneye here. Now I'm trying to remember, I feel like because I'm not doing the Puget Sound seabird surveys, I'm a little rusty on my bird identifications, and I'm trying to remember if that's a Barrow's goldeneye or a common goldeneye, and it's all about that little dot on the face, whether it's more like a comma or more like a dot. And it's looking kind of comma to me, which then I'm like, which one are you? I don't remember. Maybe we have some birders. Mom, I think you know the answer to this, right? Can we get a little hey howdy on what kind of bird that is? Right? I can outsource my interpretation. But yeah, you can really see how rainy it is. Kind of getting that closer look at these birds on the water. Hopefully they're finding some good food, and love seeing all these folks tuning in. So if you have any questions as we go along, I'm just gonna kind of explore the shore here. The tide's only at about 4 foot, so we're at the lowest point for this kind of not as low tide. So really this is all the beach that gets exposed for this part, and then really early in the morning we'll get our next more extreme low tide. So but there's still stuff to see, like these nice barnacles. I'm gonna go look at barnacles on a rock that's less close to the water, so maybe you can hear me better as those waves are crashing. Yeah, so thanks Mom, I see that you're checking. I appreciate that. So yeah, we have this rock covered in barnacles, and there's kind of this scuzz layer, which is actually just more life, most likely. It'd be fun to get a microscope and kind of look at this, so when I can kind of run my finger over something and it gets that scuzzy look, that's a sign that there's diatoms. And those diatoms are little glass animals, or well, glass plankton that are microscopic, so they're a phytoplankton, so more in the like kind of plant plankton category, and they're going to be doing photosynthesis, and they're an important part of kind of the base of the Puget Sound and Salish Sea food web. And things like these barnacles will scoop through the water with their little feet to catch that food, and then eat it up from between their toes. So if you want to eat like a barnacle, try doing a headstand and then eating your potato chips with your feet. It could be an interesting challenge. But yeah, kind of seeing lots of barnacles on these rocks. Definitely not as much seaweed compared to the summertime, and getting just very tiny little patches of this green sea lettuce. This is a seaweed that's only 2 cells thick. Another photosynthesizer. And I love its common name because it's very descriptive of, yeah, it looks like lettuce in the sea. So there's some sea lettuce. Oh, I'm also seeing a little bivalve here. This is a mussel, a little tiny one next to some red algae. These you might eat at a seafood restaurant with lots of butter and deliciousness. They definitely get bigger than this little guy we see here, or girl. I actually don't know how to. Do mussels have a sex? I'm not sure. But they're kind of neat because they stick to the rock with these little threads called byssal threads. And I'm seeing that, all right, the common goldeneye has the round white spot on its face. So my guess is the birds we saw earlier are going to be the Barrow's goldeneye. Because, yeah, okay, here's how I remember it. And I couldn't remember how I remembered it. But, okay, no, I don't want to look at my face. I want to look at the birds. I think the rain is pushing my buttons. Okay, so if I think, oh no, there's rain everywhere. If we look at that bird, okay, so if it's a dot on the face, we think .com. So common goldeneye with the dot, and then barrows. Ooh, that'd be fun to look up why, if it was a person named Barrow, but there's a little apostrophe in barrows, and so kind of more of the comma shape maybe is a good reminder if we can remember our reminders for that being a Barrows goldeneye. Very cool find. Sweet. Okay, thanks, Mom. And of course, yay, if anyone else has any questions, I promise I won't put you on the spot to research stuff for me. Just Mom, thanks. So, back to this wheel. Try to not spin around too fast. Little mussel here. I also noticed that there was a little snail. I don't see the snail anymore. You might see these brine flies kind of moving around. There's some red algae on the rock. Really, we could just spend a lot of time looking at this rock. There's so much life on it, even though it looks kind of scuzzy and brown. I'm gonna peek. I like scuba diving here because there's a lot of cool stuff on these pilings. And so here's kind of a, at least higher intertidal one. I'm noticing, okay, can you see in this tiny little crack? I don't know if my camera's gonna focus on it very well because there's other stuff in my foreground, but in this crack here, there's a little purple shore crab just being so darling. It's a good little hideout, buddy. The way I know it's a purple shore crab is it's got these little polka dots on its pinchers, which can't quite get it out to give you all a very good look, but hopefully if I don't know, focus camera, maybe you can see them. Love it, love it. Let's see, I'm noticing there's a little limpet on this rock. It's kind of good at suction cupping onto a substrate. A little cap shell. Sorry, it is so rainy out here. We're gonna keep today's little low tide walk kind of short. I also see an anemone here with its little stinging tentacles out. Rachel and I have been having a lot of fun going out at night with a UV light. So if you want to see some experiments with that, I think the rain just flipped my camera around. That's so funny. Okay, if you want to see some experiments with that, one of our previous videos at the Fox Island Sandspit shows us experimenting with the UV light, and those little anemones sure glow. We did a little feature in our Wild Side Weekly, so you can also check it out there. It's kind of cool to see maybe how shipworms, which are actually a type of clam, kind of burrowed through some of this wood. Has a really cool looking texture. I also noticed like this is pretty beat up. I'm wondering if things like this big log that's made its way in is causing any yeah, if you're living in the intertidal zone, not only do you have to watch out for predators, but you have to be careful that you don't get crushed by the things that move on top of you. Let's do one little rock flip before we wrap up. This looks kind of like a nice head-sized rock. Let's see if there's anything under it. I'm seeing lots of amphipods, these little beach hoppers. They're kind of trying to find where they're scuttling around. I like to think of them as the potato chip of the sea. And here's a nice look at a snail. This is a checkered periwinkle. They're a common snail found in the higher intertidal zones. Oh, that's my hair flying around in the wind. You can see, yep, it is wet out here, friends. So, let me put that rock back how I found it. And I think I'm gonna call that good because it's soaking out here. But thank you for tuning in. I'm gonna go collect that sample and deliver it to the Science and Math Institute over in Point Defiance Park. If you're interested in checking out those water quality results, they're posted on the South Sound Surfrider page. I'll shoot a link to that in the comments here, or actually probably in the video description. And that's just kind of a monthly little snapshot of whether or not there's high levels of fecal coliform at places that people like to play, because I know with the Surfrider Foundation, they're interested in like recreation sites and making sure that those are safe for folks. And in the winter time, the state kind of pauses their water quality assessments, minus the times where there's like really heavy rains and power gets shut down and you have sewage leaking into the Puget Sound, which unfortunately happened pretty recently. It'll be interesting to see if all our sites come back clean this month or not. I don't know. Hopefully, cross our fingers. But that's kind of why we do this, is to just kind of keep a pulse on these places. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that next time you come to Titlow Beach Park or any of the other sites that we monitor in partnership with the Blue Water Task Force crew, that there won't be fecal coliform in the water, but it's at least you kind of get a record that shows over time, you know, oh, like we haven't had positive results. That's confusing. Positive results meaning that we've had fecal coliform, or positive results meaning that we haven't had fecal coliform. Yeah, low levels are good levels. So with that, you can kind of see those trends and make some assessments based off that data. So very cool that we get to partner in Yay Community Science for keeping going and making sure these places we play are good to go. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Mom, I see there too. Yeah, missed seeing the waterfowl out at Lopez. But yeah, glad to bring it in for you this time around. So I see, again, despite the rain, there's people coming to the beach to play. So Washington, what hardy creatures we are. So with that, thanks for tuning in. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to share it with your friends. Your likes and comments are a fun, free way to help us out. There's also a link if you're feeling like financially supporting Harbor Wild Watch. We appreciate that too. But really, the one thing you can do right now is hop on over to the Gig Harbor Wild Watch YouTube page and subscribe to that channel. Because if we get 1,000 followers or 1,000 subscribers, we can do this on YouTube, and that will let us bring the beach into classrooms. So share that with your friends. Have your whole family go subscribe to our YouTube page, even if you don't use YouTube. That would be a really, really great. We'd appreciate that so much, because yeah, we're living in this virtual world. We're planning our 2021 schedule to be all virtual. And we want to get kids out to the beach, so if we can do that through YouTube with your help, that would be fabulous. So thanks again, and tune in for a Blue Water Task Force next month, because we'll be looking at the lab side of things. So how do we test for that fecal coliform? You'll get to learn more. So thanks again, and